Hello, and welcome to the My Parking Consultant podcast. Our guest today is Matthew Valera, Director of Municipal Sales at PGS.
Hey guys, this is Anderson Amaral, and I'm the host of the My Parking Consultant podcast. Today our very special guest is Matthew Valera with PGS, which is Parking Guidance System, and Matt is the Director of Municipal Sales. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Anderson. How are you?
Good, man. Hey, I'm so glad that we had the chance to connect. I know me and you have been kind of going back and forth with our busy schedules, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get a date for you to come out here, but I'm so glad that you came.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the invite. I remember when we spoke about this at FPTA in December, you told me you were starting a podcast, and I remember I told you, I was like, I'm super down to just be involved and be one of the first episodes, and kind of just really excited for the conversation, really.
No, man, I really appreciate it. Again, yes, you're right. We had that conversation back then, and I've been also running back and forth. My consulting business has kind of like taken off, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of hindered me a little bit from, I would like to be doing a lot more recordings than I've had in the past, but it is what it is, right? We have to.
That's a good reason though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It sure is, man. Again, hey, thank you for coming by. So kind of like just to break the ice, man, I know you and I had a little bit of a conversation a few minutes ago. But why don't you, break us off as to like, how did you get started in the parking industry?
So, for those that don't know, a lot of people that know me probably can tell you that I was born into the industry, so to say. But yeah, it was, my old man, Roamy Valera, who's been in the parking industry for almost 20 plus years. As a kid first, you have these, take your parents and take your, to school and kind of just see what they do. And he would always tell me like, I can't go to your school and talk about it. I mean, I just park cars, right? So, growing up, you're always like, what does he do? What does he do? And then eventually, right out of high school, I, kind of got involved in a way. I was at CVS as a pharmacy technician, but I wanted to just kind of expand and do something new. And he was like, hey, I know some people at Miami Parking Authority, and, they're actually hiring for a parking enforcement officer position, which I ended up just saying, okay, cool. The 18-year-old in me was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to cite people in Miami, the people I don't like, everybody. And it just it was a cool experience. So I applied, got to Miami Parking Authority. Thankfully I was given the position. Funny thing enough, I walked in my first day and they gave me my officer number, and everyone was like kind of ecstatic and like laughing, and I was like, what's the deal with this number? And they were like, your dad, Roamy, was, like almost 20 years ago, was this same officer number. And not many people had it before. So it was pretty cool just being able to have that same number, and everyone just kind of see me as the junior of it.
Right.
But it was pretty cool, just kind of learning parking from the very tip of the barrel, customer service, statutes, what people can do, what people can't do on the curb space. And just got involved that way. But it was really cool because you really got to see every little piece of parking, and not only that, but from our perspective and the people in our industry and our colleagues, they kind of understand why parking is important, but being able to get, a regular person or a guest, pedestrian, or resident, that has no idea. And it's the basic knowledge, like, okay, why do we pay for parking? But when you educate them and you kind of have that conversation with them and they're like, okay, wow, parking does go a long way. It's crazy. So I don't know. It's not one that you rarely get a young guy like myself. I'm only 25 and I'm in love with the parking industry. Love it. And I just got into it just because of, my old man. He was like, hey, we have this parking enforcement authority position that's open. Just take a swing at it. And here I am, 7 years later, 8 years later, still in the industry. I love it. And more so the technology part of it,
Nice.
Being able to see all that stuff.
That's amazing, man. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. When I was thinking about that I was going to interview you, I kept thinking about the fact that your dad was also from the parking industry and how special that is, right? That you were able to, get into a job that, your dad did, right? Like you actually got to work for the same organization that he worked for, which that's unique, in its own. And then having his own badge number, they're just really working, through his footsteps. That's pretty, it's an opportunity that not many people get to do, right? It's amazing that you got to do that. So congratulations. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
But one of the things that I was really thinking about, again, when I was thinking about, the questions that we're going to have and we're going to interview, was like exactly that. Like, growing up, like how weird was it that your dad worked in parking?
Mm-hmm.
Probably out of all your friends, the only person that worked in parking, right? Like your dad. And
it was funny too, because like I remember, I would always and no shot down at my mom. I mean, I loved having her, take your child to work day. But when my dad, I would always ask my dad, I'd be like, hey, are you gonna take me? And sure enough, like, I mean, there was no one I knew that was in parking, so it was very hard. And he kept it very subtle. It was like, hey, I park cars, and I'm like, there has to be more to it. Like, there's no way you're parking cars, because this is what I'm telling my friends. So yeah, I mean, I was like the only one that I knew that he was like the only parking guy that I knew, like literally. And I didn't get to meet anybody. Like, I met a lot of parking professionals. When he did travel, there was times where he had like Christmas party events and things like that we went to. We met people, but I didn't remember them, right? So it was pretty cool, because then when I, got into the industry and I started going to the conferences, and my first IPMI, it was actually IPI in New Orleans. Everyone's like, "Holy cow!" I used to remember you from knee high. So it's cool. It's just it's been cool to work with him. From Miami Parking Authority to when he opened up his consulting firm that was named after our hometown in Cuba. It was just cool. I learned from him day in and day out. And I still learn to this day from him. There's things that I do that I rely on him for. And other people too. I've met, like, I have a couple mentors that I've met through him. Steve Hernandez is one, and I rely on them a lot. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have these people. So it's been pretty cool not to just work with him on a advice level, on a advice kind of basis, but also like, hey, your company, his company, and my company can work together. So how do we work together, and things of that nature. So it's a lot more collaboration with my old man, and kind of having that relationship. So it's pretty cool, because as I get older and as things progress, he's found himself in a company where our companies can do work together. From his days at Pay by Phone to now at Automotus. It's pretty cool. So it's like, it's, from learning to working with him, it's just a cool, different mix and stuff. So I'm grateful for it. I really am.
Wonderful, man. That's pretty cool. Like I said, it's unique. We were discussing over lunch, and I was telling you that the only other person that I know, and I've been fortunate to meet a lot of great people, made a lot of great friends in the parking industry, but the only other person that I know that also worked in parking with his dad was another guy by the name of Matt, right? And he works for EMWA, so the Washington Dulles Airport. And, again, he also got to work on his exact position that his father had, as a controller at the airport. That's so awesome. It's a great story, and then just the fact that you're both Matts and you work with your dad, just it's a big coincidence, So it was pretty cool that happened. Can you explain to us a little bit? Maybe people that are watching today, they don't really understand much of like the whole enforcement concept. What was a day in your in the life of your job when you were, again, just 18 years old, doing parking enforcement? Just tell us, like, what was your day like when you started, to the end, just briefly.
So it's funny because, when I got hired at Miami Parking Authority, they didn't have a real big enforcement group. It wasn't like they had 30 enforcement officers, which now they do, and they're growing. So shout out to them. Everyone over there, they're doing a great job. But, at the time that I was there, we were like 15 people, maybe 18 people. But or 20 people, and that's broken up into different shifts. You have your morning shift, your afternoon shift, and you have your night shift, which at night we hadn't really done a midnight shift yet. So it was really just the mornings and afternoons. So I'd come in at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and we'd be checking out, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, I was honestly on that afternoon shift because I was such a dog with enforcement. I was young, 18. I had all this energy. I thought I was a police officer. I know all the statutes. So they were like, hey, every day they were like, at 4 p.m. it's peak time. So from 4 to 7, 4 to 6 is peak time. And there's a lot of areas on North Miami Avenue that you're really not allowed to park. And not many people remember that because, you park there at 2 o'clock and you're enjoying Wynwood, you're enjoying an area. Your first thing is not like, what's that sign that I park next to that says, what's the time area that I'm not supposed to park at? So there's specific areas where they would put me in different routes where they're like, Matt, we need you to go here 4 to 6 and go at it. And I would, sure enough, tow 4 to 5 cars a day, 100 tickets. So it was really interesting because you got to really understand people's behaviors. You know, things started getting more dangerous at that time. You know, that's like going up into 2019, and you just kind of started seeing like you got to be more like, one thing I learned that was enforcement officers aren't really well protected. Like, we don't have any weapons. We don't do anything. I mean, we could carry our own pepper spray, but it wasn't like, I mean, anyone in the Miami area can really
dealing with some pissed off people, right?
Oh, I mean, there was one time I remember vividly. I was doing training with Officer Jones. She's amazing. She was taking me by a dealership. I think one of the Braymans in Biscayne Boulevard. I remember the tow truck driver was towing a couple brand new cars to go into the dealership. But, you know, I was training. So her goal was like, hey, this is an infraction. You got to cite it. Which I know, hey, at the end of the day, this guy was just doing his job. He needed a location to drop off the cars, but he ended up having to do it in an area where it wasn't allowed. So we ended up citing him, and I'm citing him for
just 1 second.
Yeah.
So you're citing cars that have never been issued a tag yet? Is that what you were doing? Like,
no, like the actual tow truck. So thankfully the tow
Okay.
truck. So we could cite a vehicle that has no tag.
Okay.
It goes through the VIN.
Sure.
So that's something that we didn't know. But yeah, you can really cite a vehicle with no license plate as long as you have the VIN. But we were doing it to the tow truck.
Okay.
So the tow truck was, I mean, he got vivid. He was vividly pissed, and he got out the truck, and I remember he told me, he was like, I hope you guys get hit by a truck today. And that was like when I was training. So I was like maybe 2 months in. So I was like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with. You have to have thick skin to be in this job, right? It's not one of those jobs where people are like, okay, I'm gonna apply and you know, make some money. You know what I'm saying? It's not like one of those jobs where people are just trying to make a check. Like, this is something that you have to deal with very dangerous people, angry people, and people that aren't understanding, because at the end of the day, people think that we were just trying to write tickets. My goal was customer service. I wrote 100 tickets a day was because I wrote 100 citations where people weren't in by their vehicle, really. Because every time someone came up to me and said, hey, I'll pay right now and I'll take it away. That's our goal. Our goal is to make sure that people understand, hey, we just need you to pay. We want you to pay. This is how you pay, and there's 3 different options. You can call, text, or do the app.
And, you know, off the top of your head, was the price of a ticket, was it like a full day's worth of parking at the time, or was it a lot more? Like,
so funny you say that. It's a lot more. I mean, we're talking about Miami, who's charging maybe $1. I could be totally wrong. Maybe $2 an hour, maybe $2.50. And our tickets are coming out at $25. Now, that's when I was there. And I've recently spoken to them, and all those tickets have gone up. Okay. So and those tickets go to the city of the county. But I believe they went from $25 to maybe $40 now to $45. So, I mean, there's times where people assume that, hey, I'd rather take a ticket and just chill because the rest of the day is going to cost me the same. But in reality, I mean, we're giving citations in areas where we don't expect you to stay all day. You know, if you're a resident and you parked on the street, I mean, that's your decision. But a lot of the areas where Miami Parking Authority has paid parking, it's an area where you're not assuming someone's going to want to stay there 6 or 7 hours, you know? So you're never going to get to that citation amount unless, you know, you're living there and you're like, long night, I'm just going to park here because this is where I found a spot.
Right.
So it really differentiates, but yeah, the prices went up, man. They went from 25 to I think 40 to 45 or something like that. So it gets costly when you don't pay for, you know, parking, but it's as simple as just the customer service part of it.
All right. And then did it ever, you know, did you ever come across a situation where you might have cited the same car within the same week or same month that you recall? Or
oh yeah, 100%. So funny enough, there's 2 rules. I think one statute where it's called dead storage. So those that have a vehicle and they leave it in an area, you know, you have a pop tire, right? And unfortunately, some people don't have the means to be able to fix things right away. And you know, they just leave it somewhere and just hope to be able to recoup that and fix it one day. So there's times where if you come up on a vehicle that looks like it's been there for more than 72 hours, you can actually continue citing them.
Okay.
As you continue citing them, if that vehicle is still there after the 72 hours and the multiple citations, you're allowed to tow. I personally never, I've gone through some vehicles that were dead storage, but I've definitely cited a couple cars that were just repeat and not more so like like they were working there, so I caught them a couple times. It was more so like I cited you in Wynwood, and then 2 weeks later I actually caught you by Brickell.
Okay.
So it was just like a coincidence.
Mhm.
But the cool thing is that when it happened, we were face to face. Like the second time, they're like, "You're M Valera." Like they read the ticket and it just says M Valera, says our last name. They're like, "You're the guy who gave me the ticket in Wynwood." And I was like, "All right, cool. Like I'll take it back, but you need to do me a favor. Pay for parking." How long were you here? 2 hours. Pay for 2 hours of parking and I'll take away. Would you rather pay the 25 or you want to pay the $5?
So you had the authority to do that? That was kind of cool.
I don't know if, which I hope I don't get in trouble, which I don't know if we had the authority to do it, but it was customer service, right? Like our end goal is to make sure people paid for parking. And there was times where, hey, look, if I'm on the same street and I gave you a ticket, come to me, pay for parking, because that's our goal. We want to make sure you just pay for parking and not have to pay for a citation that's going to hurt your pocket.
Do you feel that was the policy just for Miami parking, or there's other enforcement companies that kind of have that same mentality?
Yeah, no. I feel like there's private companies that are enforcement where their thing is just enforcement. So that's their bread and butter. That's how they make their money. So they're going to enforce and hopefully do it the way they want to, which, I mean, that's understandable. And I hope they don't get mad at me. But like a barnacle, right? You're not going to take it off for free, right? You made a mistake. You got to pay for it. But there are certain places where customer service is very important, because at the end of the day, you want their experience to be good. And that goes like to what we do at PGS, right? Like you just want to make sure that if someone's going to park somewhere where you have some parking assets, that they enjoy it. Because here in Miami, I mean, a lot of people that are going to watch this, you've gone to a location where you've parked and you're like, okay, I'm not coming here again, whether it's to the beach, to the mall. And there's certain locations where you're just like, I'm not coming back here, or you are coming back here because, wow, that was easy, seamless, good experience. I found a space quick. I didn't get a ticket, or that officer gave me a second chance. Now I know that hey, just pay for parking, don't always, not pay for parking because you think the citation is going to be cheaper. Hey, just pay for parking. It's always going to be cheaper. And it's just the right thing to do. I mean, there's signs everywhere posted, just pay for parking. Obviously there's times where you're doing a 15-minute drop. You don't want to pay for 30 minutes or an hour. So I don't know what to tell you. I would say just pay for the 30 minutes. It's better than getting that ticket for the 15-minute drop off.
So just to sum this up, if you were in this situation, or would you recommend someone that got a ticket, if they did come across the officer, to just, again, doesn't hurt to try, right? But if they said, hey, if I paid for parking, would you by any chance maybe be able to avoid this ticket? Do you think it's worth asking that question? I think it's a valid thing to ask, right?
1,000%, because I mean, and really, I mean, at officers, parking enforcement officers, I understand like there's like a big assumption like they're meter maids, right? Like it's a joke kind of thing, but they're also people. So I mean, some may have a bad day and they may be coming home, from a bad, just a bad morning, whatever it is, and they may not accept it. But I think it's 100% worth it, right? Because again, I think certain locations are going to be, certain locations and owners, municipalities, universities are going to approach it differently, because it's the way they want to see their operations be ran, right? Like, hey, can I give someone, can I rescind a ticket if someone wants to pay? And some people and some owners are going to be like, no, like they already knew, they had signage. It's not my problem. They're going to have to pay. So I hope some officers would take it back, because for me, it goes back to customer experience. Sure. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You're not going to take every ticket back, but what are the odds that, because it wasn't often, right? Like the odds of someone finding me on the same street when I wrote a ticket is slim, because I don't want to be caught. Not because I didn't want to take back their ticket and allow them to pay, but because not everyone was as cordial as, hey, if I pay, can you take this ticket? It was more like you 50-50. It's like they're either trying to take your head off, or they're like, you just ruined my night, whatever, have a good one. Like they ate it up and they knew what they did. So it was very rare that we got someone that was able to confront us and be like, hey, do you mind taking this back? So I would say that, yeah, I mean, it's worth it. I mean, and I agree. I think the odds of you catching someone writing a ticket is very rare. I mean, have you ever caught an officer write you a parking ticket?
I've gotten a few, like either because like I exceeded my time or I just parked in the wrong spot. No, but I've never
seen them do it, right?
Nope. They're like ninjas,
We are ninjas. We are, and I say we because I'm still an enforcement officer at heart. But it's just weird. For us, at least, Miami Parking Authority does a great job at it. They have great teachers. They have great people that are running it there, to where it's very well known that, hey, we're customer service based. We want you guys to like us, because I mean, you go on Reddit, you go on Google reviews, people will hate the authority, right? Because you're used to getting tickets or towed. I mean, but you parked in the wrong spot and you didn't pay. But I'm pretty sure 90% of the time, if you were to catch your officer, they'd take your ticket back and you'd have a whole different, experience.
Sure.
Like you wouldn't think the officers are mean, bad people, or you hate the authority. It's more like, okay, this gentleman gave me an opportunity. Now I don't hate the authority. I kind of enjoy it because they gave me a chance. And that's kind of just how they work. And that's how we were taught to be able to cite and enforce.
Nice, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How do you think like technology has played a role like in the enforcement side? Has it made the jobs easier? Has it made them like, are they able to get more productivity out of it because of technology nowadays? Like what would be your take on that?
So when I was an enforcement officer, it was very hard. We didn't have proper tools, I think, at our disposal to be able to do it accurately and safely. I mean, we had and I know Miami Parking has done a better job and they've grown from this, but we had bricks. I mean, the size of this candle in one hand, and then we had like a cell phone in the other hand, almost like a Samsung kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we used to be able to search license plates. This was to give tickets. This was license plate. So when I joke around with people and I say, yeah, we weren't really well equipped with a weapon to protect ourselves, like a baton or a flashlight, whatever it was. This brick we joked around in the office, like this was our weapon, because it was literally a brick. So we had that to write tickets. It was like a printer basically, and you'd have to insert the tickets. It was like an old school classic way mixed with a modernized way. But then you had your cell phone that was to search people's license plate to make sure they paid. So you have this, you got to figure out where you can strap it to on your body, or you can hold it in your hand, pull out your phone, type in these license plates one by one, and search who's paid and who's not. And then you go on the left one. Now you go to find the statute that fits it, because we had like a police system to where you had different statutes. I mean, parking by a fire hydrant, parking on a swell. I mean, you name it, right? So you got to go through the list. Obviously, we remembered, so we can just type in a couple numbers and it would populate to which one we wanted. License plate, make and model, print it. Takes a couple seconds to print. But nowadays, I feel like it's totally different. Like you have things where mobile LPR, where you can drive around, scan it, print inside your car, and just put it on their windshield, send it to their house. I mean, I think now they should be able to, which I haven't been too involved in enforcement anymore ever since then. So I know I hope there's a system where you can not have this handheld system, but maybe that handheld system can do both of what this can do. Scan the license plate with the system, populate, and it'll let you know if they paid or not, which I think they do. So I do wish that if I was an enforcement officer, it would have been now, like with this type of technology, because it would have made my life easier. But yeah, it's cool just to see how things have progressed. I mean, like I said, my first IPMI show was in New Orleans in 2017. And I mean, I was like a kid walking into a Christmas store, you know what I mean? Like I was really in love with the technology.
When you attended that show, were you still with Miami Parking Authority?
Yeah, yes? Yeah. So it was funny enough, the whole Miami Parking squad was there. So at the time it was Art Noriega, who was the CEO, which is now Alex. And she and him were there, and it was funny because when they saw me, they were like, "Aren't you supposed to be working?" And I was like, "No, I got like vacation days for this, to come to the show, because I wanted to experience it at a different level."
Sure.
Not only was it New Orleans, so Roamy was like, "Hey, well, let's go," but he wanted me to go because it was the next step for me in my career, to where I needed to learn what was in the industry, what was out there, and how I can put those into my daily life to kind of make myself a better parking professional, whether it was, in enforcement, things like that. Like I saw this at IPMI. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Obviously, as a very small voice, I don't have any say, but it was cool to learn with all these professionals and all these colleagues at IPI, to then where I can bring it back to my current life and even talk to it with my buddies, right? Like my buddies don't care about parking. They're probably going to watch this and be bored, but I used to talk to them about all this stuff and trying to like tell them like, dude, you guys need to pay because look, this and that. You're gonna get caught. You're gonna get caught because new technology is coming out. So it was really cool because it was something for me that was very important because now I understood, like when I took my first trip, I understood what Roamy was doing this whole time. Like going out there, networking, creating new relationships.
He was looking out for you, like, right? He just had this vision that you're going to need this.
Exactly. So, and he was able to take me there. And I'm telling you, once I walked into the show floor for IPI, I mean, I fell in love because I was amazed by the technology that was out there for just an industry that you wouldn't think needed all this, right? Like as a young kid coming out of high school, I was like, okay, I know what pay by phone was because I would go to the beach and park mobile because I'd go to the beach and pay for parking. I know what Art Parks was because I would always use a gate to pay for some garage that I was going to. But I didn't really think about it from the aspect of, you know, that conference where you can see all the technology, the improvements that were being made by vendors, and just seeing how companies were positioning themselves for the future. Because like I said, like you saw things that you haven't seen. So it was like, okay, this is ahead of its time, but you can see the progress that was being made within the industry in terms of technology, what was out there. So it was really cool. I mean, so IPI was
you almost felt like you're a little kid in the candy store, right? In a way.
And I still do. And I still do. And you know, people there's some people that will laugh at me and say, okay, it's not that deep, but I really enjoy parking, you know, like it's something that has changed my life ever since I've got into it. And the people I've met, the people I've been able to meet and just become friends with and build relationships with has gone a longer way than anything ever.
Amazing.
And when I'm with those type of people, it's just a different vibe, you know? I can talk to whoever I want in the industry that I meet, and I always learn something. You know, I'm young. I self-taught myself everything when I first did sales. So now I can just talk to people about sales and just kind of learn, like, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you take on this type of scenario versus the way I would? And learn. So no, I'm the industry, and I have a son, so he's 6 months, and I buy him like these parking toys from Pottery Barn. And it's like a build your own garage. It's got an EV charger. And I remember someone the other day had told me like, oh, parking's that deep or something. I'm like, dude, look, you see Roamy. The third generation has to be involved in parking somehow. I'll let him decide, but it's just like parking's cool. It's like, it's just a different vibe. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, there's like Dylan, who's part of my team in PGS. He's the same way as me in a way. So like where we'll be driving together and we see a garage, we're like, holy cow, like look at the facade on that. Look at the architect on that, like the style of it, the design, everything that goes into it, right? And we're just fond of parking, and we really like it. So it's pretty cool that I got to that point, because knowing that Roamy has done it for over 20 plus years, it's been pretty cool that I can be in the same industry with him and kind of love it the same way as he does.
No, amazing story. Matt, since you did parking enforcement, I'm sure that you've heard or maybe you've experienced some crazy stuff. I mean, after all, you did it in Miami, right? Yeah. Can you share with us a story that, you know, is just, you know, crazy like that it would only happen in Miami?
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, and I don't know if this is any knock to MPA and the security of their lots, because it's very hard. They have a lot of lots in downtown area and within South Florida. So there was one lot where I was patrolling, and I remember I have another good friend of mine that was in the enforcement. His name was Ricio. He was one that, I mean, if anyone from Miami Parking hears this, they're going to know who it is. I mean, he is a vet. He's a vet, and he really grinds hard. And he's probably still there. I think if I can't mistake myself, but we were in one of the lots. It was probably like in an underpass kind of, or like an off ramp that's coming off of 95. And I remember I had a scofflaw. And the scofflaw, I don't know if you know what that is, but it's really like a license plate that's associated to someone. And I don't think it's associated, like, it's not tied with anyone's name. It's just by license plate. So if you get a lot of tickets and you don't pay for it, on your ticket it says, hey, it's $45, but after this date it's $85.
Okay.
So when it turns into that $85, it starts going into the collection process. And these tickets are for the county, right? Like, even though they're given out by MPA and their enforcement, it goes straight to the county and it's tied to the county. So after a certain amount of times, if you don't pay your tickets, your license plate becomes a scofflaw. And what that is anytime I type in your license plate, it's going to give me a ring, 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 ring. Hey, scofflaw. Okay, cool. Now I got to go on this website on my Samsung site, type your license plate, kind of figure out what the whole deal is. And it'll tell me how many tickets you've had, when you got them, how much you owe. So at that particular moment, it was a surface lot. I mean, I remember the lot number. I don't know if it was 33-3, something like that. And I remember I was getting a scofflaw. So I was doing it. It was probably like 10 o'clock at night. Like I said, I did the late night shift, or like 11. It was getting close to midnight. And I was like, when we get scofflaws, we like to do it. It's like it takes a lot of time. So helps us kind of just relax a little bit as we wait for tow trucks and after a long day.
So from that point on, if they're under that law, you just basically tow. You don't even cite anymore.
No, so scofflaws you have to tow.
Okay.
Scofflaws are tow automatically unless you're in a location where it's hard to tow a vehicle,
okay.
Which the tow truck drivers and the companies that Miami Parking had at the time, I mean, they were just really good at what they did. They could get a vehicle out wherever you thought you couldn't. So anyway, we cited it. You cite for first you have to cite for whatever you needed to cite for. Then you have to remove their license plate. So it gets a little dangerous, right? Like, we're an enforcement company, or not an enforcement company. We're part of the city, we're Miami Parking Authority, and you see these officers with, City of Miami parking patches, City of Miami patches as well that we had on our shoulder, just taking off your license plate. So sure enough, I guess the guy eventually came and he just started, flipping out. I mean, he's like, what are you doing with my license plate? Had no idea who we are. I mean, again, we don't have police badges, right? It had as like a blue print badge that you can't really read what it says. And then 2 City of Miami patches that say parking enforcement. So, I mean, to an extent, in a naked eye, you can see who we were, but from far, you're like, oh, dude, I'm getting robbed. Someone's taking my license plate. So got into like a scuffle. I mean, the guy was almost trying to attack us.
Wow.
And it was funny because there's another piece of that story that's not even involving him that just makes my night like Miami.
In the middle of something like that, are you able to just pick up the phone and be like, 911, it's an emergency?
No, that's the thing. So like, right there, your defensive mind kicks in, right? And as an 18-year-old, I'm like, I'm a parking enforcement. I got some power, right? So I'm like, I don't need to call anyone. I could deal this myself.
I'll whoop butt.
Yeah, and I will, and I'll kick some butt. And I remember me and Ricio, because you always have to have backup when you do a scofflaw because of the type of volume of citation it is, right? And you're taking someone's license plate. So you call your backup. Ricio's there with me, and he does all this stuff. And we're going at it. I mean, he's swinging, and we're just like, dude, you need to relax,
Yeah.
So whatever, the cops finally come because we have a button on our walkie-talkie that can kind of like signal them or just call them, and then we have to dispatch. So we did that. The cops come, kind of handled everything. They ended up taking over the scofflaw.
Whoa.
And it was a crazy night, right? Like, I'm like, holy cow, there's no way this gets crazier. So sure enough, I go to, I wrap that up. It's probably like 11:30. So I have 30 minutes before we go in to do our roll call for the end of the night. And I remember I went to another lot. And I was just, I was like, all right, I'm going to chill here, cite this real quick, do my 30 minutes and just bounce. It was a crazy night. I'm not trying to get killed. I want to go home. And at that time I was like, thinking nothing of it. I was like, again, nothing can happen as crazy as this. And I don't think what happened right after this was crazier, but I'm citing tickets and I'm citing the lot, wrapping up my 30 minutes. And there's a guy sitting in between a car, and I thought he was dead. And I was like, there's no way. I was like, sir, wake up. Wouldn't move. I'm like, is this your car? Like, I don't want to cite you if you're here. And he's like looking dead. And then he kind of like gets up, and he had the spoon with crack cocaine on it, with his highlight, with a lighter, heating up the spoon. And I was just like screaming. I was like, get out of here. Get out. I'm the police, just to get out of here. I was like, at the end of the day, like, Miami parking lots are there. It's like, so we need to make sure we also provide that security and make sure we get them out of there. So I remember he was spooked. He thought I was the cops because again, our patches looked like cops. Yep. So he just jumped out of his chair, ran out, and he just left. And I remember he was pissed because he left the spoon with a bunch of shit on it. Sorry I said that, but he left a bunch of stuff on it. And sure enough, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I personally have never seen it up front and close, because that's not what I'm, what I've been around. So I was like, called my supervisor. I'm like, dude, like, holy cow, like, this just happened. Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, did they leave? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, cool. Just dump it on the ground. I'm like, I'm not touching this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not touching it. And he was like, all right, yeah, just leave it there. I'm like, no. So my buddy was a cop there. And when I mean buddy, like, as an enforcement officer, as time goes, you end up having to rely on some cops. So you create relationships with them. So like, there was a cop that we became buddies, and I had asked him, I said, hey, are you on shift? And he's like, yeah, I'm in downtown. I was like, hey, swing by here, and just make sure this area is good. Cause there's a lot of cars there that people are parking in this slot, assuming that their cars are okay. And sometimes things can happen. So, I asked him for his help, and I remember he came, and the homeless guy kept circling the lot, and he wanted his crack cocaine. So he kept saying it. He's screaming. He's like, leave. Like, I want my thing, dude. Yeah. I worked hard for it. And in my head, I'm like, what did you work hard? Like, how did you work hard for this? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's crazy, the lifestyles, right? And how where people get to. And it's just sad, because I saw that at a young age, and it was like, 18 years old, not young, but still young for me. And that's kind of like one of the craziest nights, like, from being attacked from the scofflaw to then the crack cocaine situation. I'm just like, holy cow, this, like, Miami. This is Miami.
Right.
So that was one of the nights where I was like, okay, this is a close call. And that probably would wrap up one of my craziest nights in Miami.
I can imagine. Before you went to sleep, I'm sure your mind was going at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
You soak all that in, and you're like, what did I go through?
Debating if I wanted to do another scofflaw again. Yeah. And I'm like, and it's funny too, because I've gotten another scofflaws where it's the same thing. Like, we've gone into, there's an area in Wynwood. It's northwest 22nd Street and North Miami Ave, or First Ave. And it's very bad. It's a very dangerous neighborhood. And anytime you get a call there, it's like, hey, call for backup. So I remember we one time, same thing, scofflaw. We were in that area, but it was one of the rookies. He had just gone off training, and he was there in that area, and he called for a scofflaw. Mm-hmm. And you could hear people calling it, like, screaming with him in the background on the microphone. I'm like, I called him on the side, on the cell. I was like, hey, did you call for backup? He's like, no. I'm like, dude, you need to get out of there. And he was like, dude, like, eventually, like, on roll call at night, he was like, thank God you and Sanchez, Sanchez was officer 2439. He was like, thank God for you guys, because if I didn't get out of there in time, I probably would have got jumped, because right after you called me, like, 5 more guys came out, and they were like, you need to get out of here. Yeah. Like, you need to get out of here. And it just got to that point, and there's certain areas within Miami where they don't tell you not to go, but you kind of just know yourself as talking to other enforcement officers, because you don't realize, man, but there's a lot of paid parking areas and residential areas where you need residential stickers, or you need to pay, where you wouldn't assume to be, Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. You learn a lot of things as an enforcement officer, at least in the city of Miami.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Those are great stories.
The life expectancy, my life expectancy did raise after I left that position. Yeah. So I'm grateful for that.
Nice, man. How many years did you end up staying at Miami Parking Authority working as a enforcement officer?
So I rambled on a lot about it, and it sounds like I was probably there for a very long time, but I was there for probably a year and a month, or a year and 2 months.
Okay. But it was like, not one day was the same, right? It sounds like every day was different, right?
Yeah. And it was crazy because, like I said, it was from 4 p.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. Because if I am towing a car at 11:30 or 11 p.m., sometimes you have to pick your battles, right? And I say that because if I started towing a car at 11, it takes like an hour and a half to tow a car, just for the tow truck to get there, do their thing, paperwork, all that. So like, if I call for 11:30, I'm not towing that car until 12:30. I may not even get in the office until later. So there's times where you have to pull off some calls. So having that type of schedule, it was a lot. Like, my days were very long. I was 18 years old, just working my body to the ground, just because it wasn't mobile LPR, right? So I'm parking and walking blocks and blocks and blocks. So from 4 to midnight, it was just constant. And I couldn't do much after that, because you get home super late and you wake up, let's say 10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon during the day, and in 2 hours I had to go head to Miami to clock in and do the same thing over and over.
Right.
So it was a process.
Oh. And When you left there, what job did you do in the parking industry when you left Miami Parking Authority?
So after Miami Parking Authority, like right after IPI, kind of happened the whole thing where Romy actually got an opportunity with Pay by Phone. I mean, before that, sorry. After Miami Parking Authority, Romy had started up his consulting firm. So that was the one that was named after our hometown in Cuba called Newtown Advisors. And he was just same thing, kind of similar to what you're doing, helping out some people that that he was really close with parking consulting and doing a lot of studies, things of that nature. And, one of his biggest things was that I needed to finish school. And as a young adult, I knew that it was important. And there's a lot of talk, obviously, that, hey, degrees aren't important anymore, things of that nature. But for us and the way Romy grew us up, it was important. So he's like, hey, I need you to get back out there because on your current schedule, that's not possible. So I ended up, going under and working under Romy for a little bit. And it wasn't really working. It was like, hey, you already seen what parking is like at the very bottom of the barrel. Now you're going to be at like a mid-level. Sit by my side. You act like you work for me. You wake up at 7 a.m. You're here in the office at 8 a.m. with me on my calls, shadowing me. And it was really how I learned. I was by his side every morning. I mean, I lived in his house, right? So I would wake up and it was like I had to wake up at the same time, make sure I'm in the office at the same time because I needed to be on those calls, whether I had any input or not, which I rarely had any input, but it was like, hey, I need you to research this project. It was cool because I remember this specific project that we were working on, International iDrive in Orlando. And I still have that folder in my MacBook because I always think about it. I'm like, this is where I started, right? He gave me a project. I researched on it, found business owners, things that were involving in the project. And it was, in regards to traffic, congestion, not just parking. So it was pretty cool to be involved in that. And that's kind of how I learned, I just shadowed him, and some might say, that's the greatest person you can shadow, right? Because you learn for so much. But it's very true. Like I got to learn everything I know, and most of it I don't know, by shadowing him. And that's kind of how I changed over from Miami Parking to where I'm at now, and kind of how everything has built up.
It's amazing. I could relate to what you said about school because, over the years, you start thinking, right? Like, oh yeah, people go to school, but they end up like getting a job, but they're not, doing what they went to school for. Like I've, met several people throughout, my life that went to school and they work in something totally different. Myself, like I went to school for automotive technology, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a gearhead. I love vehicles, right? And, but I'm not doing that for a living, right? But at the end of the day, the way that I feel, and I've had that experience, again, personally, and I've seen like in people from my family, like the education that you get, no one can take it away from you.
Yeah.
Like knowledge is power, So like once, going to school just for that is worth it.
100%.
So
and it's funny you say it because I remember there's a conversation I had with James McKay from McKay Meters. When I first got into the industry, he was one of the very first people I met at IPI, and we were talking about it, and he's like, dude, I have like a major, I think he said, in biology. I was like, and you're dealing with meters, right? So I actually majored, I got my bachelor's in communications, and I always wanted to be a sports writer, do debates, podcasts like this about sports. But yeah, like you said, right? Even though I did this knowing that I was in parking, I still did it because it was something that I love. I love the communication aspect of it. I wanted to become a writer. I'm a good writer. So those are things that I wanted to still achieve because, like you said, knowledge is power. So I know a lot of things that many people wouldn't assume that I would know because of the major that that I chose. So yeah, for me, school is very important. And it's like what you said. I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably going to say, I know someone with degrees that aren't even using it, whatever, but knowledge is power. And it also shows a little bit of dedication and strength, for someone to stay through those 4 years and get college done, because it's not easy.
No,
right? and sometimes it doesn't take the 4 years, right? Like,
absolutely.
So,
like I have a teenager at home right now. My son's in high school, and he's like, "Why am I doing this? I'm never gonna use this ever in my life." And it's like, my son's name is Blake, right? The older, and I'm like, Blake, literally, like, you're right. You're not going to use this, right? But they just want to make sure that you can start a job and finish it. Because that's the value that you're going to get out of going to school, like, high school, If you can start, first of all, it's your commitment, right? You started and you go all the way through, right? You go for 4 years. They want to know that, you can take a long-term job, right? And then you have projects that you're going to take on. And that's all that it is, man. I'm like, at the end of the day, when you walk out of here, it's just they're making sure that they teach you that you start something and you finish it, and then you can complete a job.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is the value that you're gonna take and move on, and you're gonna take on, to your different jobs in the world. But yeah, like totally, I can relate to to what you said. So yeah. Now, how would you say that the jobs that you've done, right, in the parking industry, like you worked with your dad for a little bit, where you shadowed him, you learn about the consulting aspect of it, you did the enforcement. When we spoke a little earlier today, you were telling me a little bit about how you worked for a different company where they also was sensor based, and you were doing installation, you were doing sales, you wore many hats in that job. But how would you say that these jobs or your work ethics or your work history, how has that prepared you to fulfill your role today with PGS?
It's prepared me in many ways, right? Like, so after shadowing Romy for so long in Newtown and kind of understanding what it takes to be at his level, and his level was a consultant, and what I mean by that, like, he was someone that people trusted, someone that people can rely on because he knew what he was talking about. He was good at what he was doing, and he showed that he can get it done on time. So kind of understanding those things that were important to be able to get to where he was at, and then going into a company, that startup company that after Newtown. So when Romy ended up canceling his, not canceling, just kind of stepping aside from his consulting firm to go to Pay by Phone to be their CEO for some time, that's kind of when I jumped into one of his clients, which was a startup based sensor program. And that's where I kind of really would say that I learned a lot of what I know, and more so on a personal basis, but also long-term basis. Like, I got to see what it takes to make a startup, what it was, the trials and tribulations of it, what it takes. So it was really cool to wear different hats, not from selling it to installing it, servicing it, maintaining it. Those were really challenging things to kind of do by myself, especially when you're alone. But that's exactly what prepared me for where I'm at now, right? I'm at a point where I'm working with a team, under Dylan and Derek, where we have such a good structure where it's only us three on the sales side, which a lot of people will think is crazy, but we do such a good job working as a team to where we can rely on the other 30 plus operations guys, teammates that we have that are installing our projects, maintaining our projects, and project managing, that we can go out and do what we do best, which is sell, create our business relationships with others, and make sure that our clients just aren't clients, they're strategic partners. And we make sure that, we do good on those things. And what my other my other jobs have done for me is to kind of see that, see what we're doing and the process we're doing, but not have to deal with it, right? Like, I don't have to deal with wearing so many hats at PGS, but it's cool to see what it takes on the back side of things behind doors. Like, when I sell a project and I hand it over to my VP of operations, Matt Taylor, and he starts running with it, it's cool for me because I know exactly what he's dealing with,
Sure.
Right? Like, I know what he's dealing with. I know he's going to be busy. So if I bring him another project, I kind of understand prioritization versus what needs to be done now versus later, right? So a lot of the things that I did at Wise and that startup company in Newtown, that's exactly what got me started here, right? So from the help from Romy and the help from the startup and kind of understanding, like, hey, to be successful, you need to be able to do this, this, and that. It was very challenging, but it was like very helpful, right? I'm beneficial. And then the last thing I would say is my sales. I'd be able to admit that my sales part wasn't my strongest skill set of like, from me personally, because it's something I never did, right? Like, when I jumped into that startup company, it was self-taught. Like, I didn't take lessons. I didn't go to school for sales. I didn't sell anything ever in my life. Like, I was a sports guy. I played sports my entire life. I mean, I was in CVS, pharmacy. So it wasn't like, I was selling a product or anything ever, or like a T-Mobile or anything like that, right? So taking that into consideration and going into a company where you're selling something that's way ahead of its time was very challenging, but it was rewarding. It was super rewarding because I self-taught myself sales, and now I'm in a position where at PGS, they have allowed me to flourish with that. I can send my team, and I can send people presentations, and they can review it and say, hey man, like, trust me, I know Bob or Billy longer than you have. And not in that way, but like I've known them for so long that they might take this a little different than this, change up your presentation. Things of that nature are just a lot different and allowed me to really substantially grow my skill set for sales. And that's exactly why we're doing so great right now. Like me and Dylan are really doing a great job. And it's really because and I'll reference the Heat. It's almost like Jimmy Butler in the Heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're playing in delegation, right? So when Jimmy does good, everyone does good. Bam does good, everyone does good. And that's how we work. You know, when Derek's doing good, we all do good. When Dylan's doing good, we all do good. And the same thing for me. So we try to work hand in hand and make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're working together as a team, and that we're hand in hand, right? Like if I need help, we're helping each other. And if he needs help, we're helping each other. And that's just kind of allowed me to further, you know, grow my skill set in sales, business development. I mean, anything, right? And it's just been cool because all those positions that I had with Newtown, to Miami Parking Authority, to the startup, it's gotten to me where I am today. And it's literally allowing me to use all those skill sets that I used before now for this current position.
Right. And the way that I see it, the way that you explain it, it seems like it's just, you know, such a blessing that you're able to work in a team, because it's what you said, right? Like, you know, maybe sales wasn't your strongest point, but then you have somebody like Derek that's been a sales shark his whole life, right? Like, and, you know, one thing that I look up to in Derek is the fact that that guy works his butt off, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing that, to me, that what Derek did is that he came from a different industry, right? Derek came, he came from selling cars, right? He used to be a general manager of a dealership, right?
Yeah.
So he was in the car sales for such a long time. When I met Derek, he had recently transitioned into the parking, where he was selling parking equipment, right? And then at one point, Derek sees this opportunity to work with Indect and sell, you know, these sensors. And he thrived at that, and it came to a point that he had an opportunity to, you know, be a business owner. He thrived at that, and he's been doing really well at it. So again, it's something to look up to. Like Derek, you know, if you look at what he has done and what he has accomplished, he could be a role model for somebody, you know, who's trying to do the same thing.
100%.
So having somebody like him on your side in the sales aspect of it, you know, like it just really, you know, levels everything out. Like, so yeah, you know, maybe you're not the best at selling, but he's great at selling, you know, and then you have Dylan on the other hand, you know, maybe he is very good at selling, but he's very charismatic, right? Just like you are, and you guys, you know, just your whole team together just makes it really, really like a well-built team to go after and be able to, you know, to close these deals. Because at the end of the day, you know, you have a product, but you have to build a relationship to sell that product, right? So people have to get to know you, have to get to know your team, trust you, trust your team. You know, that is just like a complete circle of everything you guys do, right? So that definitely builds, you know, on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I mean, we have a great team, and Derek is awesome. Like a lot of people that know Derek, he's like a big kid, right? Like essentially, and I don't know if he'll hate me for saying that, but he really is, like, and he understands how things need to get done, and he really started. And he's the epitome of grind, right? Like he was at the car business. He knew what it takes to get things moving and support his family and things of that. And he's, one thing I love about him is that he is very family oriented. You know what I'm saying? Like when I had my kid, you know, they were very supportive of when Luca was born, that's my name of my son. But when Luca was born, they were very supportive. Like they knew that I was going to take some time to really get back on my feet. That was my first kid. I'm 25. It's not easy, right? And I know that's understanding. So it was good for them to be able to understand that and really like open arms, come with me to open arms and understand that, hey, you have a baby. We're going to support you. And then it just goes back to like who he is as a person, right? Him and Sean, for those of you that don't know, we are a woman-owned business company. So Sean, her name is Chandrea. She's the wife of Derek. It's family owned, and it's the funniest thing, right? Like we are family owned, so I would consider us a small business, but we do so well that we're a major company in the parking industry, right? Like everyone knows who we are and what we do, and that we do it at a very respectful rate. Like we do a good job at what we do. Like our sensors don't do bad. So it's really cool to kind of just see where he's come from, and just like I am, he knows that, you know, he needs to support a good product, right? Because he's been in the industry for so long that he can't support something that's not going to work, right? Because it tarnishes your name. And same thing for me. Me and Roamy, I like to make sure that our name is taken care of, because Roamy's had he's very well known in the industry. And for those of you who don't know, that's how I see it, right? Like a lot of people call me Junior. A lot of people call me, Roamy's son, and I'm working tirelessly to make sure that people can talk to me and say, hey, you know, that's Matt's dad.
Yeah.
It's Matt's dad, and that's Matt's father, or something like that, versus that's Roamy's son. But that goes back to like Derek. Derek is helping me get to that point, and the way he is and how Dylan is, it's allowing me to achieve that. And we are working very hard right now to make sure that people understand that we love what we do, we cherish what we do, and we love the people that we work with. So it's all thanks to Derek and Sean to be able to have me here and be able to do that with them, because it's like a second family for sure, even though they're in Texas.
Yeah, no, amazing, man. Great story.
Yeah.
Great story. When you're not at work, when you're not, running around doing stuff for PGS, what does Matt do for fun?
A few things. So as of recently, now that I have Luca, I find myself really busy with him, just creating memories. It's a different type of love when you have a son. Not, I mean, so having kids, it's really different, right? Because you don't. I mean, as me growing up, you always ask like, Mom, Dad, like, why are you guys so hard on me? Why do you always want to know where I'm at? Things of that nature. And you're like, there's some people that have those strict parents, and you always wonder why. And it's like, it finally kind of hit me where I'm like, okay, I understand why. Like, it's a different type of love that you have for your kids. So as long as now, and as far as it's concerned, I just find myself a lot with Luca, my wife, Wilmar, and we just find ourselves just trying to enjoy life, right? Like find new things to do with Luca, just watch him grow, create new memories, milestones. And if I'm not doing that, I'm always with my buddies, Emilio, Alex, a little shout out to them, Nick, and just spend time with them, whether we're golfing, playing sports, just hanging out and having a brew. We just hang out. I don't try to do too much, but golf is one that I'll find myself at a lot. Well, we started playing pickleball. That's
Okay.
one, which I haven't played pickleball. They've tried getting me out there, but that's one of the things that the group is starting to play now, and I just haven't been able to get out there. But just playing sports, really. We spend a lot of time working. Like, what we do at PGS, we do a lot of work, and there are pros and cons to having a small business and a big business, and in terms of having like team members. And we like that we're not a big corporate company with 1,000+ employees, and we love that our workload is where it's at. It gets busy at times, and we're okay with that. We're happy, but I try my best that when I'm not working to be able to just cherish the time that I have with my wife and kids, because my wife and kid, but because as time goes on, you kind of just learn that tomorrow's not promised, and things happen, right? Scary things happen, unfortunate things happen, and I don't live my life like that, but I live my life in a way that, okay, you never know if you're gonna wake up tomorrow, so just trying to enjoy and just trying to go day by day. So when I'm not playing sports, just hanging out with my son, my family, Roamy. Sometimes we're playing a lot of golf. We play a lot with Chester. So a lot of the Miami guys, the Miami parking guys, we just like to get along and go to cigar bars, just shoot the shit, really,
Yeah.
just hang
Yeah,
out
man.
and just enjoy life when
Yeah,
you're not
man.
worried about parking.
You work hard, you got to play hard. It's like, it's, me and you were talking about that earlier. It's a lot of that to do just work-life balance, right? That's really important.
Yeah.
Like it just sometimes, man, you're just on a roll, right? You just focus on your job and you're just doing it. You're just grinding it out, right? There's a time for everything under the sun, right? And but you gotta have the time and take off and let your mind, just can recycle itself and just, you know, it's important. If
Yeah.
not, you just, it could hurt you in the long run.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I like about PGS is that there's a lot of life work balance here. And when you need your time and you need some time out, and you need to just, hey, I need a break. It's good. It's good. And that's one thing, going back to Derek and the way Sean have created their company. It's a great place you want to work at. Right. And I really foresee myself being here for a very long time. I mean, it's a great team and we have a great product. So, being busy for me is fun. Like, I love what we do, and I really do mean that. So it's like, even though I take a second, I'm like, wow, we're busy, geez, I'm tired, it's still something that we're enjoying doing. You know what I'm saying? from proposal making to just drawing out solutions, value engineering things, things of that nature. It's cool because then when I'm not working, I'm talking to my wife about it. Hey,
Yeah.
like we just got a project with so and so, and I'm doing it for them, and it's a major client, right? And I don't want to say it, but it's like that'd be cool if I got this client, you know what I mean? So it's cool that, you know, my wife is as she's understanding of how in love I am with the industry. So she's always like, no way. Like she just supports me. So it's pretty
That's
cool
awesome,
that
man.
she likes to have those conversations with me.
And how long have you been married for?
I've been married since I was 19.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, so I'm 25. We're going on 7 years, so almost there. Almost at the 10-year mark. But
Congratulations, man.
Young lovebirds.
Yeah. I got married at 22.
Look at that. Okay.
Yeah. So last week was my 20th anniversary.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah,
Good for you
so
guys.
we went out to Vegas.
Congrats.
Yeah, spent a couple days out there. It was awesome. We had a blast, man.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
Yeah. 20 years is a special year. You got to celebrate that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So it was awesome. How long has PGS been in business for?
So PGS has been in business since like 2012.
Okay.
Or 2011. So around there, as you know, Derek, when he came upon, he was doing parks for a little bit before he did his car stuff, but came across parks, obviously understood that to do parks, it was very headache, right? It's high maintenance. I mean, you're getting calls on a Saturday, Sunday, this gates is down, you got to fix it. So he kind of was just like, okay, this may not be what we need to do. And then that's when he went to one of these conferences and he saw Indect product. So the Indect product is what we have now and what we've had since we've opened. And when he came across it, he tested it out. And that's one thing I like about Derek is that he doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care how many locations you got. He doesn't care how many you've sold. He will test every single thing he buys. And I like that because it's a testament to what he is and how he holds his values, right? I want to make sure if I sell something, it works. And it's almost like cars, right? Like when he was selling cars or in that car business, you want to make sure that if you sell a car, it's a good car and it works. And it's not something that you're going to not want to be in 3 years. So he kind of understood that, put it together and was like, okay, holy cow, like this Indect product is really good. We need this. So, man, it's funny. Every meeting we go to, he says the same thing. And I find it funny. He's like, it is the best thing since sliced bread. And that's how he says it. He says it every time. It's the best thing since sliced bread. And honestly, for me, I'm a young kid. So you guys probably have a different reaction to it. But for me, I'm like, I've always had sliced bread. Yeah. So I don't know if it's that great.
Right.
But just messing with him. But that's one thing he says. And it's honestly a great product. Like it's a very good product. It's been on since 2012. A location that we've had for that long, 2013, I think, is DFW Airport. They have our product and we've been installed there since then, and it's still functioning, still working, and they're one of our biggest partners and strategic partners that we have right now. So they've been open since that long, yeah. Awesome, and they opened it with, you know, Sean and Derek. So yeah, they've grown, man. It's cool to see where they started to where they're at now.
Yeah, I have a pretty interesting phrase that I use in parking that I learned from Derek. One throat to choke.
The one throat to choke. And it's true because that's how we are.
Yep.
It's funny. It's so funny. There's so many things that he says where if you're around him so long, you just start catching it. But it's true. It's true. You know, we are one throat to choke. Like we work, you know, we work with Indect. So they're the manufacturers, which not a lot of people understand. So they're a manufacturer. They're out of Austria. And we supply their product, and we are their sole distributors within countless of states throughout the U.S. Right, so we work with them hand in hand, and it's like what he says, right? Like you want one throat to choke, right? Like if things hit the fan, you want one throat to choke, and that's exactly how he says it, and it's true because we are your one throat to choke. You're only going to deal with us. You only have to deal with us. No third parties. No nothing. No FPLs. No third. Yeah, none of that, right? We are turnkey, and that's one thing that I love. Is that we have enough guys to come install our own stuff that are our teammates. Like people ask me like, oh, do you have your own team? And I'm like, yeah, we do. And they're like, yeah, but like, is it a team that you contract with, that you have a partnership with? No, like we have our own team. Like we have guys that are staffed by PGS, work for PGS and are at our company holiday parties with us. They've known me, they know my wife, and they install our stuff. Their specific job is to go around the country installing, servicing, and they love it. They really love it because I would put money that we have the most experienced team in terms of installing guidance, and I'm all guidance systems. we have a professional team that does it, right? Like we don't call someone and say, hey, this is how you install it. I'm going to show you. Here's a a spec sheet. Let's go through it, right? Which I'm not gonna lie, there are some locations where our team is just so busy. We're installing massive locations, like we install in airports and stuff. So it's very hard for us to say, Anderson, you want a garage installed in 2 weeks? I'm gonna do it. Like, okay, if you want it that way, then we'll use a third party. But if you want to go based on our schedule, here's what we got. Here's our availability, and we'll make sure our team is on it. So we do send sometimes a third party, but the way we work and the way we pride ourselves is that it's all in-house. We're all turnkey. And that's one thing I really love because our clients love it. Everyone we've worked with love it. Everyone I speak to loves it, right? Because there's a lot of times where, not just with guidance systems, but with solutions, right? From parking to in your house, when you do impact windows, right? The manufacturer always sends a third party. Your third party installer for the impact windows always has issues. Mine did. And it's a headache.
And he probably doesn't install just that brand, right? So again, it's not always the same.
It's not always the same.
Yeah.
So, and that's really important because we see a lot of our competitors using third-party companies, and it's for us, we just see a bigger advantage when we have our own team installing it because they know exactly what the bread and butter is. This is all they do. They don't do anything else. They're not working on lighting fixtures on other projects. Like they just do guidance for us, and that's it.
That's their expertise.
That's their expertise. And when you go to our site, you can see it. I mean, we have Disney Springs, which I know a lot of people in the industry know about it because every time they see it or every time they see me, they're like, you guys, the Disney Springs garage is just amazing.
Yeah, I know about it.
Yeah. You're always
there,
there, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy because we honestly lost that project and we were $13 to $15 more expensive per space. So
the first time around, right? Like,
yeah. And it was crazy because when you think about it, I mean, from a perspective of that, right? Like if you're Disney, you do 10,000 spaces times $15. It's a lot of money, right? But their biggest thing was, hey, what is Disney known for? Customer experience, happiness. You're here to see some magical stuff, and that's it. We don't want you to worry about nothing, right? So when we ended up losing that, they didn't get the right support. They didn't get the right product, right? Like the product doesn't work. And then sometimes clients at that caliber require your attention 24/7. I mean, when you have Disney, when you have certain clients like that, it's very important that you're there 24/7 so that when things hit the fan, you're there to respond. So eventually after a couple months, the vendor that they had there, had been stripped out, or actually they had asked us to strip them out because it wasn't accurate. They didn't get the support maintenance. If a sensor went out, you would tell them, hey, we don't have it in stock. We got 6 weeks or a couple months. That's not how Derek is, man. Derek holds $2 million worth of stock in-house throughout a couple of our factories, not our factories, our warehouses in Orlando and in Texas. So when things hit the fan and you call us, we can go there the next day, if not the same day. Because our pledge for servicing is if you were to call me, like let's say you had a site, you were to call me, we respond within an hour. We're there on site if we have an office nearby within 4 to 5 hours. Worst comes to worst, let's say you're in a state next to our main state, we're there the next day.
Now, is that all based on a service level agreement that somebody would sign with you guys, whether they get 1 hour service or they get the 5 hour service?
No. So service agreements are a little different. We do have different service agreements and different levels to it. But at the end of the day, we treat our clients the same we would want every single one to be treated. Not just because you signed a different service level agreement compared to another client, right? We want to make sure that you enjoy working with us, that you love the experience, not only for your customers enjoying the system, but the experience working with us. We want to make sure that's such a good experience to where not only do you continue working with us, but the next time you know someone who's building our garage, the next time you know someone building a surface lot, a building, whatever it may be, right, that can use our stuff, we want to be that person that you recommend. And how do we do that? Is by making sure that, let's say you don't have a service pledge, right? Let's say your service pledge ended last month and you're like, Matt, I can't afford it right now. Like it's tight. Like we can't. We're going to help you. We're going to help you because at the end of the day, we're here to make sure that you guys are taken care of because we're not here just to make a buck. We're here to make like our footprint last for a very long time. And we're doing it with a lot of pride and because we love what we do. Dylan and Derek are very close. They're almost like family, right? So it's almost like a family business, right? So everything we do with pride, and we make sure that we're going to do it the right way. And that's what I love. I mean, we have a good product, so it's starting to show down here in South Florida. Like, obviously Derek didn't have the support and didn't have someone down here in Florida, and he got me here about 2 years ago. Coming August will be my 2 year, but he got me here 2 years ago, so to say. And ever since, it's just been going great because people trust me, and you know, and I like that, and I'm building relationships to where people can understand the benefits of our product, because there's a lot of sites down here, right, in South Florida that you see that don't function well. I have buddies, right? Buddies send me pictures of a lot of garages down here, and it's never working. It's never working, and they're like, "Is this you? Is this you?" I'm like, "No, it ain't me. Like, give me a couple years, and I will be here." And it's starting to be that way. We just installed in Miami Parking Authority. We're installing 2 garages with the city of Coral Gables, a mixed-use development here in Hollywood. So it's really ramping up, and hopefully, you know, the other vendors that are in South Florida and Florida or out there in general just see it the same way, right? Like, because it gives us a black eye when other vendors don't do well. Because when you think about a PGS system, you're like, oh, they didn't do well. Why would we trust you, right? So we just try to do the best we can in what we offer, what we sell. And it's no shot to them. I mean, when you get to a certain point, it's hard to service all your product, all your locations, right? So that's one thing that Derek does. As we grow internally as well to make sure that we don't leave a client out hanging to dry, because it will hurt our picture, and we don't want that. And that's how Derek kind of runs his business.
Absolutely. Now, since we're talking about service, I mean, you've explained it. I mean, seems like the level of service that you guys put out once you do the install definitely sets your company apart. But from the technology side, what makes the Indect product that you guys carry differ from what's in the market today? Like, you guys have been in the market for a while. I've known from experience of seeing your product. You guys are in some of the major casinos in Las Vegas. You're in major universities, shopping malls. What would make somebody choose your technology over the existing or the other companies that are out there offering a similar product that you guys do?
So I would say, I mean, on the technology standpoint, it's almost like what we talked about at lunch, right? And I know not a lot of people would like to hear it, but I think it's a good analogy, right? Like, you look at the Apple product, you look at the Dell laptops, the Dell product, and you look at the Microsofts, right? They're all very similar, right? They all do the same thing, right? You have your phones, you have your laptops, and all of them break, right? All of them have issues, right? So how do you defer to which one is best? And for me, it's going back to support, right? Who can I call out of the 3, and who's going to fix my laptop as quickly as possible and on time? Obviously, you want a product that works, right? And that doesn't break down. That's okay. Then you'd have no choice but to go with us, because our product doesn't break. We can, and I tell you this all the time, we can list you all of our projects and all that we've installed, and we've never been replaced. We've never been uninstalled, replaced, nothing, right? We've been given opportunities to fix something. You know, if a faulty wire was installed, someone hits a camera and something goes off, that may happen, right? But there's never been a reason for someone not to select us unless it was for budgetary concerns. Because as you and I spoke about it, our parking guidance system, not just us, from all vendors, it's a very costly solution, you know, from $500 a space to more, depending on what types of garage you have. So when you look at it from this standpoint, I mean, for me personally, I think, one, we do have a better product, right? Our cameras are 3 spaces on each side, so each camera can do 6 spaces. We have an ultrasonic that can do 1 space. So not only do we have 2 solutions, but we have clients that use both solutions on a hybrid type style. So some garages on the first level, right, it's a high clearance, right? So you can't put cameras down the middle of the aisle because you have UPS trucks driving in, right? So what are you going to do? You need a UMS system, so you need an ultrasonic to be put in the bottom level, because if not, if you put anything down the middle, it's going to get broken. Makes no sense. You're going to waste all your money, right? So we have multiple solutions that can be used as one that clients can use and still get that parking guidance systems without breaking up.
So you're able to bring, one technology for one level, a different technology for another level. So based on your customer needs, you can handle that.
Correct. And, we just met with someone, an airport, and it was simple, right? It was very simple. They were like, hey, there's this one level that I want, LPR on, but I want to know how long they've been in a space, for what space within the level, because the level is going to be broken down. It's going to be nested, and one side is going to be valet, one side is going to be reservations. But I need to defer the two, but I'm nesting it at one area. So as they come up, they wanted our camera-based system for that whole level to defer what's valet and what's reservations, to tie it in with their reservation system. All of their levels have ultrasonic. That's because they don't care about the license plates for the other levels, because it's just all guest parking and it's for the airport, right? So that's how they broke it up. So for me, I really believe our product obviously is a lot better and a lot easier to maintain because it is robust. Like our ultrasonic is robust. It's IP65 rated. Our cameras are IP67. We have a Texas hospital in Houston, right, that was affected by Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey's that hurricane that set over the city for like 3 days, right? There we have a below grade garage, like 3 levels. We're talking about every single level was submerged in water to where the entry to the garage going down was filled up. It almost looked like a beach, right? So that occurred, and we're like, I mean, I wasn't with the company, but I assumed Derek and Dylan were like, holy cow, something's going to happen. That water completely came out. You know, they drained it. All of it works. All of it works. Not one single sensor had been replaced because it's all IP65 and IP67.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. They spent
the savings from the investment that they made.
Exactly. They had FEMA gave them like $180 million, and they spent like 40,000 on the server because obviously you're connected to like an outlet, so the outlets are fried, all that stuff is fried. So a new server and some new electrical components, but the actual sensors and the hardware are still working to this day, functioning at 100%. And that's just a testament to the kind of technology we have. Like our technology doesn't fail, and 90% of the time we can fix it remotely. So if our sensor goes down, if a camera goes down, our guys back in Houston, when you send your service, they're going to know before you even found out, because we have guys that sign in every morning to all the sites to make sure that everything's good. Because again, we want to make sure that your experience with us is good. So that way, when we come to you, say, hey, Anderson, it's Monday afternoon, we fixed this problem. We found it this morning. You don't even have to spend your resources, your time to worry about it. Now your clients and your customers are going to be just fine because we dealt with it prior to you even understanding that it was even there.
Yeah.
And that's the type of work we do, because we want to make sure that a guidance system has to work. I think a guidance system is pointless if it doesn't work. And going down here to the locations that you and I have spoken about, you go to them and they don't work, and that's the troubling factor, because now to the regular person, they assume that the concept is great, but that the solution doesn't work. So now how do you approach that when you're a different vendor that they're thinking about, and they're very like stuck on something? When someone's stuck on something, right? Like, you know, they're like, okay, it's great, but if they did bad, what makes you different, right? And I can tell you all this, but you're not going to agree unless you see it in person. And that's another thing we do great. If you don't believe me, we'll fly you out to a site. We have people that are, you know, willing to move forward with us, but they're like, hey, I need to see this in person. You don't have enough in South Florida, which we are going to have. So if you're watching this and you're in South Florida, we're going to have a few sites that you guys can go see in the next couple months. But that's a big factor for us. So there are times where we have to fly out people to DFW that's been there since 2012 and show them, look, we give a minimum like 3-year warranty, right? But look, 2012, it's been on for 10 plus years and it works. Obviously, we're going to maintenance it for you. We're going to service it for you, right? We're going to have those agreements in place, but you can see that our product doesn't give up and it doesn't not work.
Right.
And one thing I love about it is that we're not daisy chained. So like if one of our sensors or cameras go down, it's not like a Christmas tree where everything goes down. So that's one thing that we always asked about. They're like, hey, if one camera goes down, do they all? And they don't. And a lot of vendors do have that.
Right.
And you see it out here. So that's how I would say that we're a better company to move forward with if you're thinking about a PGS system. But things are different, right? Some people have different opinions. I just got to do my job in sharing, what's different about us. And it's just, I think we have a very good product, and I wouldn't be, repping something that doesn't work, I mean, us, Derek, we test our stuff, and we even though we have Indect for a very long time, even since we had it since 2012, we still test it on a weekly basis and a monthly basis, because we want to make sure there's no hiccups, because we have clients like the Microsoft, like Google, American Airlines. We do all their corporate campuses, right? Those are the clients that aren't going to take anything, right? They're not going to, if you do bad, they're kicking you out. and the Disney's, right? Disney, when we were giving back Disney, and then we said, hey, these guys didn't do well, we need you to come in and help us. We went in there, did a good job, and they're like, okay, now we need you to open up an office for us, because we're not taking no. We're not taking no for an answer.
Now, in a project like that in Disney, where there was a product that was installed before yours, that product underperformed, were you able, and again, I'm sure the technology that they choose to use has something to do with this, but were you able, or are you able to use any of the existing infrastructure of companies that you compete against when you go in to put your product in? Is there anything that you could reuse to save money for your customers?
1,002%.
Okay.
So the way our systems work is we need power and data at certain locations within a garage. Not many, obviously, depending on the size, there are different points to it. So if you have a 3-level garage, we may need points, 2 different points or 3 different point locations where we'll need power and data, right? Good thing about having a system that's already been installed, that someone's asking, hey, Matt, can you take this out, put your system in? It's perfect, because now I can use the power and data locations where they've had it and design our system based on where it's currently located. Now, if there's another location that's needed that's not on the map or something, we can go about that. But more than not, a lot of the vendors that we've replaced, we've had that infrastructure already available to us. And the cool thing is that there's some camera-based companies out there that do very similar installs to where we can just snap their camera off, put our infrastructure, our wirings and our cabling, and put our camera onto it. And we don't have to worry about the infrastructure that our camera mounts are going onto. So it does save a lot of money, because like from hardware to infrastructure side of things, it's like infrastructure is very costly right now in days. If you're in construction and you've seen this, I mean, for the cost of conduits increasing, right? So
Since COVID,
exactly, everything. Yeah. So all the materials that we use, it's very substantial to our costs, and that's where a lot of our costs come from. But the good thing I like about us that really differentiates us is that we have no reoccurring fees. So not only do we come in and replace some sites, but we do it at a one-time fee, no recurring fees, no software fees. You can get as many licenses as you want, and you can control your system from your laptop. I mean, if you had a garage with us, you can pull up your laptop and play with it. Put a couple spaces reserved right from the tip of your fingers and change the color. The matrix signs, right? Like signs that we do, it's all from Indect. So it's really cool. It's like what Derek goes back to what Derek's biggest thing is. It's one throat to choke. It's all from Indect.
From like a product perspective, like in solution, you guys offer a sensor that goes exactly above that one space, right? You have another sensor that has a camera attached to it, and that can oversee several spaces. You said 3 on each side, right? So a total of 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else do you guys carry besides these sensors? Like, what else does PGS offer, and then also the Indect line? Like, what else?
So we have a various amounts of signage. We have different types of signs, from monument, matrix signs, internal signs. We call it pillar signs. So these they're all different 4 types of signs, right? You can do very different things with them. Your matrix is almost like what you see on a highway. From when you're driving on a highway, it says, hey, buckle up. And then it switches, and then it says, hey, this is I-4, and then boom, 10 more minutes, traffic delay. It's just like various different types of message, a variable message system. And we use a P4, which is the pixel rated sign, and it looks clean. It's like a TV, and we have a lot of people using this a lot more now because it's a lot cheaper than our monuments.
Okay.
But that matrix sign allows you to do so much. You can make your money back off of advertisements. You can do so much things like Miami Parking Authority. It's going to use it for welcome thing and all that stuff.
With a sign like that, is your customer able to log into a portal and change what it says on it on the fly?
Yeah.
They don't have to call you guys.
They don't have to call me. The best thing about us is that we try to make your lives as easy as possible, right? So not only can we do it, you can call me and our team can do it, and we can do it through our service calls or whatever, but we train you to the exact amount of training that you need. So we're going to train you and your team to make sure that your staff knows how to do it without our help, so that the time comes, they can do it. If not, and it doesn't work, doesn't come out how you want it to, we're there to help. Mm-hmm. So we do provide training to all of our clients, and we don't even charge for it. Like, hey, because you do have employees that are going to change. You're going to have Andersons, you're going to have Matts that leave your company and do something else, and you're going to hire new guys, right? And those new guys need that training. So if you call us and say, hey, I need more training, we can provide that. So that's a good thing about us. But yeah, it's the tip of your fingers. You can do whatever you want from your phone.
And if you have a customer that has like a dynamic garage where like they do just different types of parking events, are you able like to change colors on your sensors to kind of designate parking for certain areas? You're able to do that?
And one thing that we recommend is that when you're going into a garage as complex as that and you want to do something like that, we recommend our matrix signs, because when you change colors, you need to let people know that are coming into your garage what those colors mean. So boom, orange resident, purple EV, green just available guest parking, red taken. You could add some other colors because it's RGB spectrum, so you can think millions of colors. And you got to display that for them. So no one's going to know what those mean unless you let them know. And we recommend using matrix signs to be able to share that with them, so that way they know. Say, hey, orange is reserved. You're already letting them know. And you could even put that on internal signs, because we do internal matrix signs where it's like those profile signs that you see regularly nowadays, where it's just arrow left and right with ADA. Same thing, but it's a complete pixelated screen as well, and you can share so much more things on it, which is pretty cool.
Well, since you brought up the orange reserved, does Indect or PGS, do you guys offer a reservation platform that works in conjunction with the sensors, or do you partner with somebody that does that?
Yeah, we partner with reservation systems. We don't necessarily have our own, but we do have a system within the software where it's like an A and B list, so a loud list and a block list. So those that has a permit, you can put their license plate, residence, different types of use cases really, where you can put license plates that are allowed and license plates that aren't allowed. So if someone breaks your arm gate and something of that nature, and you want to make sure that you find out when they're parked back in your garage, you can put them on the block list and you'll get alerted that. So we don't necessarily have a system where you can do reservations right off the rip, where people can download and do it themselves. But we have the ability to integrate with those reservation systems that can do that. So that way we can correlate them. So that way when someone does park in a space where our camera is being, monitoring, that we know, hey, it's ABC123. That was Matt. He had a reservation at 1:00 and he's here at 1:05, whatever it may be. But yeah, we don't necessarily have it, but we partner with those type of companies for sure.
So while you've been working for PGS, what has been your favorite project that you worked on so far?
So my favorite project that I've worked on so far, I'd have to say there's two. Okay. One being with the city of Greenville with Pam Corbin. That one's just really cool because it was one of the first ones that I've done with PGS, but it was one that, I've known Pam for some time. She's known Roamy for some time, and she was actually in the city of Orlando. So it was cool because when I left PGS, she had left Orlando. And just sure enough, we cross-pollinated, and we contacted each other, found everything was okay. And she actually had heard about the Indect product and was already talking to somebody about it. And it just made things a little bit easier for us because, we spoke about it, and they were able to do something with us, which was pretty cool. So we're being installed in their River Place garage, which should be going live soon, I think maybe in a month. And then my second favorite is definitely my first airport project, which was massive. It's 3,000 plus spaces, Manchester Boston Regional Airport. Okay. That's in New Hampshire. It's funny because it's not in Boston, but when I spoke to the guys that work there, it's like, they put Boston in the name because back then they realized when you Google Boston Airport, it's going to be one that pops up, and sometimes people fly in there and just drive down to Massachusetts. So that one's one of my favorites because I sold that when I first joined PGS, and Derek always laughs with me because he's like, I've just never seen someone close an airport in like the time that you did.
Because usually airport deals are massive deals, right? You don't go to an airport and you sell one sensor. Like you're selling like you said, 3,000.
Yes, and it was pretty big because the conversation started in January of 2022. And boom, March of 2022, we were already under contract. They had their
mindset.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. Because again, it's very rare where you see something like that happen, but it's just a massive project to where, like I said, I love what we do. So for me, I'm gonna take trips out there just to see it, right? Just to see it, how many cameras we installed, how many people were helping find a space on just a small town, because New Hampshire is not, it's not where the airport is. It's not a big town, right? So it's I mean, it's very small town. Like the airport's big, like the garage is big, but it's a small area. So it's pretty cool to kind of see it. Be able to take Luke out there, my wife out there, and just show him like this is one of the first sites I sold. Just because I take pride in it. Like it's pretty cool. And I will say shout out to Nick Berry from Flash on that. Me and him worked on that together, so it was pretty cool. And that's one thing I love. You know, we don't work alone all the time. We're always working with somebody. A lot of parks vendors, a lot of payment providers, operators. So it's pretty cool. And that project we did with Laz and Flash. So it was pretty cool to kind of build a relationship with them. You know, me and Nick had never met each other. So it was cool to kind of just do that project together and kind of just build a relationship with him. So it's pretty cool. And we're actually good friends now. So that's
nice.
cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You did business and he became friends. It's like, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
You know?
He's always following up with me, seeing how my little guy is. And he just had a baby too. So we're always touching base. So it's pretty cool.
Very nice. Where do you see, like, where's PGS going? Like, where do you see your organization 5 years from now? Like,
that's a good question. That's a very good question. I mean, I think we're going to continue to grow. We're continuing to grow our team internally. We're trying to continue to grow our team just in general. And we have a lot of projects that we're installing in the near future, from airports to cities to private development. So right now, we're just focusing on making sure that we get our clients and partners taken care of, install those, and continuing to install more and make sure that our clients enjoy working with us and things of that nature. I don't know what the future holds. We just sponsored a NASCAR.
Yeah.
I know you saw that.
I saw that, man. That was awesome. Actually, there's a die cast now. Like, I want to get one so bad.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking some. Hopefully we have some for IPMI, but we're definitely going to have some for shows. But like I said, which it's just been cool. It's been a cool ride so far. And I think, you know, the company is growing. And Sean, Derek, you guys have done a great job. So I don't want to say what's in their mind for the next 5 years. I don't know what they have planned. Like I said, it's their company. So I don't know if they want to retire or sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I know he doesn't. He's always talking about how great we are. And I know he won't. But I think we're just going to keep doing what we're doing now. Like, just be great at what we do. Just be honest, be transparent, which is how we always are. We'll tell you when it's not going to work in certain settings. We'll tell you if you need it or you don't. But we do hope that, you know, people appreciate it and continue to do work with us. And we're just going to keep winning projects, man. We have a good product, and I think a lot more people are starting to see that. So hopefully people continue and support us and allows us to keep growing, because obviously if no one bought our product, I mean, we couldn't be where we are now, you know, and grow and support and grow our team. So it's, as long as they do it and they see the benefits and we make sure our technology is working, which it is, we're going to be here for a very long time.
Yeah. Now, if you had someone that was kind of like on the fence, they're like, man, I want to put in a parking guidance system, but I don't know if it's worth the money, or I have a system now, it doesn't work great. Does PGS working with Indect, does it really do what it says that it does? Would you guys, and again, this is a question so we can inform, the viewers, would you guys ever offer to maybe just put in a couple spaces, an installation like that? Is that something that you would offer to do so they can try out your system? Or what you said, no, we'll just fly them out to location, talk to our customer. That's the way to do it. Like, what's your process on that?
Yeah. So funny you asked that, because I'm a big, so as at the startup, I had a lot of opportunities where we were doing pilots, and having a product that was ahead of its time. It was essential for us to pilot products and pilot what we had so people can see it and provide those use cases. So the short answer is no, we don't do pilots, paid pilots maybe, but we don't do pilots to that degree. And the reason why I say is because we have so many so many sensors out there throughout the whole US that it's more fruitful for us to fly you out there than to install a certain amount in your garage, because it's not the same. You're not going to see the numbers you're going to want to see. You're just going to see it work on a very small scale. So you want to see it work, come to a big garage. Come to a garage where we have hundreds of them, 700 sensors of ultrasonic, just a big amount, because that's when systems go bad or go good. When 3 sensors are plugged in together, it ain't going to do much. I hope any vendor is going to have those 3 sensors on working 24/7, but that's not where things hit the fan. Things hit the fan when you go on a bigger scale. So yeah, we rather fly you guys out to Disney Springs, come to Miami with City of Coral Gables. Now it's going to install one. We have one in Merrick Park, which is by the Henry, which is called the Henry, which is Merrick Park, the mall, also in Coral Gables. Miami Parking just installed some signs at theirs with some sensors. So I take that back. We did a pilot with Miami Parking, but they wanted to see it, so we did it with them, so you can see it at their garage. But yeah, I think it's fruitful for us more to build a relationship, fly you guys out, or to whoever is interested, to fly them out to a site and let them see it in person, than me talk some game on it, show you some pictures. But yeah, I mean, and we'll share references. You know, we do these walkthroughs with our clients and the prospects that are looking to partner with us. So yeah, I mean, that's how we got Orlando. Disney Springs came, the staff from Disney Springs came to DFW. When they saw DFW, they know what to do.
Nice. Now, what areas do you personally service with your organization?
So I oversee all municipal accounts. So all municipal accounts, and then like the Northeast. So the cool thing about our company, which I know Dylan can agree a little bit, is we're like a yin and yang kind of thing. So Derek is now starting to focus a lot on operations and allow and trust me and Dylan to do what we do best, which is work side by side and just kill it, right? So me and Dylan are doing exactly that. So Dylan and me just basically see the whole US together, but like his is Texas, I'm in Florida, he's going into the Virginias. There's could be a opportunity in Virginia that he'll pass to me. Same thing for me. Like I do projects in Greenville with South Carolina, but he does a lot of projects in Carolina. So we worry about our main states and then kind of hit everything together. And he's been doing a lot of work like that with me. And that's one thing I love. It's like, I have a project in Colorado. I have a project in California. I have one in New Jersey. I have one in Florida, Georgia, Atlanta. So there's so many different ways that we work together that we really have a title just for say. Which me and him always talk about, like our title doesn't really say what we do, but we just kind of like, it's a duo kind of thing. We work hand in hand together and make sure that whenever I'm busy, I send him things, and when he's busy, he'll send me an opportunity that he can't work on or that he needs help on. So it's pretty cool. That's kind of how our dynamic works. But yeah, I do oversee all the municipal side of things. But more than not, we're working side by side throughout the whole US if it's not our main states. And Texas is massive. Florida is massive. Yeah. So me and him already just have a lot to juggle within our own states. So a lot of the outside stuff is just basically like extras for us. So it's just, but it's also important for us because we just opened up an office in Virginia. So we want to make sure that we keep our footprint growing. We have a lot of projects in Virginia and Washington that are going up now soon. So, I mean, it's just going at a very fast pace. So I appreciate it that Dylan is the way he is, because without it, we wouldn't be able to work, how we do.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned that you guys have a warehouse in Orlando. You have a warehouse in Texas. Your corporate office is in Texas, right?
Yeah. So our headquarters, we have a headquarters in Houston. We have an office in Dallas, an office in Orlando and Miami, San Diego, and then Virginia. Okay. So we just opened up the Virginia. We won Baltimore Airport, so BWI, which is actually one of the first airports to ever have a guidance system. Way back then. So it's pretty cool.
So you're doing a replacement there?
Yeah. So we're doing the replacement there. And installing that new system, and we just felt that we've had so many clients in Virginia that it's time to open up an office to make sure we service them and take care of them, because it's important. Going back to the testament of what we are and how we hold ourselves, making sure that when we install a site, it's not like we're out of sight, out of mind. We're going to be by your side, make sure that when you call, we're there, and that we support you guys through and throughout. And that's just and that's a testament. That's just how we are.
Absolutely. It's awesome that you guys are growing and building new offices.
Yeah.
I did work, I've worked on an RFP many years ago for BWI for a valet project, so I'm familiar with the airport. I've been there a couple times. So it's a nice airport. If somebody wanted to learn more about like PGS, Indect, what was the best way for them to do that? Like,
I would say reach out. I mean, you can find some stuff online on our websites and things like that, but I think the best way would be reach out. You can reach me at my email, Dylan's email.
And I'm going to post all that here on the, on the
Perfect. Yeah. So when Anderson posts all that, I mean, you guys can contact me through that info. reach out. I mean, we love to present to you guys, and it's not sometimes it sounds boring when someone says present, but it's just more of like a conversation just like this, just trying to give you guys as much information and knowledge things that allow you to kind of run with and understand our product a lot easier on the benefits and uses of it. Because I mean, I don't want to bore anyone, but there's a lot of benefits to it that you wouldn't think from different aspects, from a residential building to a municipal building to university. It's all different, from healthcare. So depending on where you're at, I mean, yeah, just reach out. We'd love to present and just kind of have a conversation with you guys to kind of indulge your mind with some more information about the technology and kind of just let you run with it. And if you have any questions, we can get those answered.
Awesome. Good to hear that. So where do you see the future of parking, right? Here we are, it's 2023. We're almost in the middle of the year. You've attended probably 1 or 2 trade shows so far this year. You got, a few more to go to. Where do you think it's going? Like, in your your honest opinion, where do you think we're going to be, 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
It's funny because it's a great question, because me coming into the industry, going to the IPI show in New Orleans before I went to IPMI, everyone was talking about like, oh, driverless cars, people aren't going to be driving no more, this and that. And that's totally been debunked, right? Like, we're 5 years from that now, and it hasn't changed. Like, it's how it is. So I'm going to have to say that I'm going to side with what I guessed throughout those 5 years, which I knew people were going to still drive because I personally love driving. I don't know if I can put my hands in an AI or computer to drive. I just can't. I've watched too many Netflix shows to do that. So Black Mirror has me in my mind on a skewer there. But I would say that we're just going to I think a parking environment where it's a lot of automation. I think a lot more new technologies. Like I said, being at a startup so long ago with a sensor company and it not doing well, there was like a couple years where no one was doing sensors. So now it's come back. You have companies like 11X and all these other guys who are doing these sensors, and it's going back to that, right? Like, okay, cities are starting to go back to it, give test it more or less and see if it's okay, if it's come back and if it's doing better than what it used to be and the solution used to be, because it's got a very bad black eye. But I just think technology is changing. Like, it's going to get better. It's going to continue to get better. I think there's a lot more focus right now on the curb. Obviously with COVID, creating these outdoor restaurants on curb space, monetization of the curb, and how do we reduce traffic. I think parking right now, the conversation is going to be a lot about transportation, congestion, and things of that versus actual technology. I think more so it's going to continue to be the conversation, what's out there, because I don't think anything has been proven to help any of these major goals that's been discussed. So I don't know. I don't really have an idea where we're going to be in 5 years. I just think that it may be similar to what we see now, just with a lot more modernization, automation, and a lot more new technologies that are going to be out there to help us achieve that. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if things will change, but based on the 5-year change from 5 years ago to now, from what we were talking about 5 years ago, not much had changed from then. So I'm curious to see how things go. At least from us, I'm in a new space than I was 5 years ago. So at least for us, I see it the same in 5 years. I don't know. I don't know if some people might disagree. I just don't see anything right now that's kind of told me that, oh, this is a major development. We're going to be changing this, and that.
I mean, it's your personal opinion, right? Only time will tell, right? No, man, but that's amazing, bro. I'm glad that you came out. It's been, I had a lot of fun,
No, I appreciate it.
I learned a lot about parking enforcement that I didn't know. Thank you for the stories. You haven't worked with your dad, still haven't, again, working with your dad now. Your dad's still part of the industry, being like an icon, been here for so long, so it's amazing, man. I mean, I'm really glad that you came by, that we had this conversation today. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it. First and foremost, I mean, you're doing a great thing. I know you mentioned this podcast to me and I was super excited for you. So that's great. I mean, you're going to have a lot of good people on here, a lot of good parking folks on here. So I'm excited to see those other episodes. I know I saw Luigi's, so that was great. Shout out to Luigi. But no, I do appreciate you having me on here and having this conversation, because A lot of people know me as, you know, Roamy's son and stuff. So it's cool to kind of just get my standpoint and my 2 cents on it. But also a little bit more about PGS and Indect and, you know, how we do things. And for those of you that don't know us, how we are as a company. I know I was able to divulge a little bit into like Derek and Dylan and kind of, you know, the roots of that big tree. So I appreciate it, and you know, I look forward to it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna have all of Matt's contacts here in the comments. I'm also gonna have information about PGS. So if you guys are interested, want to know more about their product, go ahead and reach out to Matt, and he'll, you know, either take care of you himself or he'll work with his team to take care of your needs.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed getting to know Matthew and the solutions offered by PGS. Please support us by liking and subscribing to our channel. To be notified when our next episode is posted, make sure to ring the bell. Take care.
If you or someone you know wants to be a guest on our show, contact us through our website, www.myparkingconsultant.com.